Hi, Sarah.
Hello, Kathy.
I well, today we have Sarah Needham joining us. Since Kelly is out for today, we're still going to have a fabulous time. And we have FORREC on the show today. We have James Anderson and Linda Hung.
Hi, good
Hello.
morning.
Good morning.
Good
Great.
morning. So
Well, what a
go ahead.
what a pleasure to be here. We're so happy to be invited. And it's nice to meet both of you.
I'm super excited about this. I've gone to IAPA and seen you guys' booth and everything, so I'm super excited. So how about we just jump in and you guys can introduce yourselves. Would you like to start, James?
Sure, that'd be great. So I'm James T. Anderson. I'm the Senior Director of Visitor Attractions at FORREC. I'm also a Senior Creative Director. So I wear a couple of hats, which I enjoy at the company. So I kind of run a lot of different jobs, but more focused on what I'll call cultural attractions, but also attractions in theme parks, as well as location-based entertainment like family entertainment centers. So that's really my focus.
Great, and we'll pass it over to Linda.
Linda Hung, thank you for having me on this show. It's very exciting to be here. And I work alongside with James. I've been at FORREC for quite a number of years. I've played many roles, worn many hats in a similar way. Right now, I'm vice president. I work in the business development studio, but alongside with other people who are very multi-talented, we do many things.
Would you like to share a little bit more of your career journeys that brought you to FORREC and within this space of entertainment?
Okay, well, I'll start on that, and mine started really early. I think for a lot of us, we get our inspirations of children sort of start us on our career path. And for me, my dad was in the construction business, and he actually would bring plans home all the time. So I would sketch over top of the plans and on the back of them, and I draw cities and the whole bit. In connection with that, I grew up in the 70s. Every Sunday night was Wonderful World of Disney. So we were glued to the television every Sunday with, whatever Sunday meal that it was. And then in correlation with that, I did go to Disneyland at 8. And with my, father's kind of experience in construction and with my love of Disney, I came out of there going, people design these things. 8 years old. So I was pretty focused from there on. I drew theme parks, sketched them all in my teens. And then I decided architecture school was going to be the best avenue for me to kind of get forward. So I grew up in Edmonton. Actually, West Edmonton Mall was another kind of piece of inspiration for me. I grew up basically in the shadow of the mall, which was one of the largest integrated entertainment pieces, and then went to architecture school. 5 years in Toronto. That's how I got here, and it was interesting because everything that I loved and held dear for theme parks and entertainment centers and shopping malls, for most of the professors in architecture school was not exactly what the teaching was about. And so I had to kind of balance myself a little bit in school and focused on more modernists at the time, from Le Corbusier and Alvar Aalto, and had to kind of switch my brain a little bit in terms of what inspired me. And then focus on the end of school was how to integrate shopping malls into the surrounding fabric and community, and that was very important for me to kind of bridge my two worlds together at the end of school. I graduated though, and I'll say the year, and it's going to age me, but 1993. And I say the year because it was the height of a fairly significant recession, and none of us could get work. It was a struggle. Very few of the graduating students, with all the sweat and tears of school, there wasn't much. And so I ended up at a bakery to make ends meet. A little bakery in the middle of Toronto. It actually served some of I'll call it the wealthier citizens of Toronto. And I tell this story because the owner of this bakery and fine food shop was named Jane Rodmill. And she happened to be a close friend of Steve Moorhead, who at the time was a partner at FORREC. But unbeknownst to me, I didn't know FORREC existed. I only know about Steve Moorhead. And so one day, Jane Rodmill said, Steve's here. You got to meet him. You got to meet Steve. And so from years on, Steve Moorhead actually told the story, how he met me. I was covered in flour head to toe because I worked in a bakery. And that was my first introduction to Steve Moorhead. So I use that as my basis to get into the industry. I didn't realize, though, that Steve Moorhead and FORREC were the same, not until I started working for another company called Simex, which is a motion-based simulator provider in Toronto, and I was doing that part-time. And then I found that Steve Moorhead and Associates and FORREC are actually the same thing. And I phoned him probably every couple of weeks. So, and at the time I had to go through his secretary, Madeline Eagleson, and it was hard, but I eventually got an interview. It was the longest interview of my life, but one of the fewest because I've been at FORREC for a long time. It was probably about 4 hours because Steve kept getting pulled away for different meetings and would bring someone else in to interview me. So I went through my portfolio probably a half dozen times that morning. And so I got into FORREC. Now that's the story.
And we're going to hand it off to Linda.
You know, as I was listening to James, I'm trying to find that moment in my history where it was that aha moment, and I knew, how I would end up at FORREC, but it wasn't really like that. So for me, I might have to take you back a little bit earlier in my days, just to start and give you kind of a background of my family and my mindset that I grew up with, because I think that that's really what shaped me in my career. I was born in Toronto. In an amazing multicultural city. My parents are both of Chinese descent. My mother was born in China. My father was born in Hong Kong, and I was the eldest of 3 children. I was then also the eldest of 20 cousins, all born in Canada. So you can kind of see, the way that I was growing up in this family, the expectations of education, the expectations of ethics and extraordinary family values. And that really reinforced my culture, the culture of being first generation Canadian. So with that in mind, just going to fast forward to university. I graduated similar to James, but a year earlier in 1992 from landscape architecture. And there was just no work in Toronto. It was a really tough time. And at that point, I did have an offer. I had a job that was waiting and offered to me in Hong Kong. And then I thought that I would, why not? What's there to lose? So I packed up my bags and I left. And that really, this experience in Hong Kong, I ended up staying there 7 years, and it opened up my eyes to this whole new world out there that I had never, because I'd never left North America before that. My first time out of the continent, and I didn't know what I would be doing the rest of my career. I was still very much in exploration mode, but I did know that I needed to find a job where I could travel, and a job where I would be able to share and learn about people's cultures, because that's what fascinated me most. So I naturally found a connection. I was a good landscape architect, I think. I had good planning skills. And then when I heard about FORREC back home, because at that point I'd already been 7 years, I needed to return for various family reasons. I found this company that did somewhat what I was familiar with. They were made of landscape architects and planning professionals, but with this entertainment twist that I knew nothing about, and just like James, that unbeknownst to me, there was a whole industry, and it was this perfect match. So I found myself at FORREC, and that's when I met James. So that was 23 years ago. So James,
Yeah.
like, if you can, it's kind of scary, but we have known each other for almost a quarter of a century now. I don't
I
know,
try not to think about it. I
but
still feel like I'm a little kid coming out of university some days, right? Because
I do too.
yeah, yeah,
And when I look at James, I feel like we're both still kind of like kids, but we've grown up together
another,
at FOREC. It's, yeah,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
a little emotional.
I think you both have really wonderful and interesting paths and routes into the entertainment industry. And myself, as a graduating class of 2021, and the times that we're in, it's nice to hear how people pull themselves through different times and still end up in the entertainment industry and at a wonderful company like FOREC. So would you like to take us through who you are and what you do within the company and your roles?
Sure, I'll start that off. So, FOREC, we're an entertainment. Well, actually, I shouldn't say entertainment. We're an experience design company, and our focus is really to create transformational experiences for the guests, and it really connects to for each other and to their families. So that's really our focus. What's different about FOREC is we're actually based in Toronto, Canada, and it actually is part of our DNA, and it's important to us. So we've established here. We'll talk a little bit more about our history and how we came to be, but for us, it really connects us because Toronto is, as Linda pointed out, it's a very multicultural city, and we really draw upon that, and it's really who we are. So. So we've been, based in Toronto. We do have, people in the U.S. that we work with, representatives that are both client-facing as well as that we draw upon in terms of experiences. We also have a Shanghai office that it deals with our business development there as well as client relations. As we're in Toronto and in Canada, it's not a huge market, so we have to be global. And we've always, excuse me, we've always been since our inception, 35 plus years ago. So while there's been some Canadian projects that help sort of propel us to where we are, we're really a global company. And, we have projects built, I think, in 20 countries. We have over 3,000 plus projects across the world. So it's really, while we're Toronto focused, we're and inspired, we're also have our eye globally, and it really makes us who we are. So that's kind of where we are. And then in terms of, who we are, as I mentioned, we're very multicultural in terms of our staff and who we come from. We try to champion diversity and inclusion as much as we can. Obviously a lot of things in the last year have come to light, so we're certainly working on that. But it's, as I said, it's really something that we celebrate, and it's the core of who we are. From them, we, in terms of, what we do, we historically gone out and market for sectors. Our primary focus over the years has been theme parks. We've had the privilege of working with some of the major players in the industry. And so it's been our core business for much of our history. However, we have other as important parts of our portfolio. Water parks has also been a key for us, and over the years, again, going back to West Edmonton Mall. We also have my sector, which I described earlier as I lead for visitor attractions. Again, anything from cultural institutions to IP branded attractions. So we get to work, with some of the fun brands that are out there. So which is really great. What's also really important for us is mixed use and entertainment. As we see the transformation in entertainment, it is not discrete elements. Everything is becoming more integrated. The glue of it becomes retail and dining and the entertainment component all comprised. So that's been a really key for us. And certainly last but not least is our resort sector. So whether that they're standalone or integrated into these overall pieces that I've discussed. so then we get to how we do it, and it's kind of amazing because we have these great studios which all work together hand in hand, and so we have five studios, professional studios, that mirror what is for a lot of people, or a lot of other companies out there, but we have one studio, the creative studio, which I believe sets us apart. So our studios include architecture, obviously, from everything from pavilions and parks to huge towers and complexes. Landscape architecture is obviously important to us, as Linda will point out. It's really part of our history and who we are, both on a large scales with master planning projects, but also we focus locally in Toronto, and that's important to us. We have a lot of parks and projects that our staff are able to learn on and to really contribute to the public life here in Toronto. And then we have our interior studio, which I work really closely with because they deal a lot in visitor attraction. So from the food and beverage, also into retail, but also show sets for attractions and rides and so forth. Then we have also our graphics and signage studio, which do everything from wayfinding, marquees for the park, but also like from menus and smaller exhibit planning. But they are also our front face. They make the material that we go with our clients with to make us look good. And so we really rely on them to really kind of push the envelope in how we present our material to our clients. And then the key differentiator and one that I was part of for quite some while is I led the creative studio. And the creative studio is where our creative directors reside, I guess we'll call it, but also our concept artists and illustrators, our 3D modelers, all that reside in the creative studio. And so these studios all work together. We come up with an idea and it goes back and forth. And we have teams for the projects that are representative of all the studios depending on the project. But we also have an amazing support team that are behind us, from finance, which keeps us going, as well as our IT, which is always focused on making sure that we have tools like this to collaborate, and especially has been really critical over the last year as we've all been working from home. Marketing, which helps us, with things like this and makes us look polished, because I'm not. And also we've got our director of people, which again we're talking about how making sure that everyone has got their goals and feels comfortable and is inclusive in the company as possible. So that's who, what, where, when, and how. Right.
That was a really good summary, James. Maybe if I had to add anything to that is just the way we work. James talked about that a little bit. When I first joined the company, I felt very intimidated because everybody around me seemed so knowledgeable and the know-how, so worldly, so well-traveled. And I think that this is something that we continue to aspire to be multidisciplinary, to be able to absorb talents and work with as many people as we can within our company, because that's actually what's very special about FORREC. Each of us is not very individual. By the time we've gone through several years at our company, we have a way of borrowing the DNA and learning from one another so that we have this commonality that makes us very special. And that's how we tackle our big projects.
So, Linda, would you like to take us through a bit of the history of FORREC and tell us where you came from as a company?
Yeah, for sure. I love talking about the history of the company because I think it's pretty remarkable the way we started as landscape architects. James mentioned that. I'm proud because I'm a landscape architect and a master planner. That's really the root of it. Our project started with one project in Canada's Wonderland. It's funny, I just did a presentation to a STEM class earlier about Canada's Wonderland. We're all so excited that the park's opening this summer again after being closed for a whole year. And this park was opened in 1981. And at that time, we were not called experience or entertainment designers. We were landscape architects. We were hired to do the landscape for this big theme park. And through that process and through that learning experience, we figured that there's just more to the art of landscape in a destination like that, that has to do with the ride integration, dealing with people flow, dealing with the planning and how to organize and move people around a space. Millions of people that go through a park, and tens of thousands in a day. So there's a not an exact science, but definitely an arts and science combined. And it was a niche. And that's really the start of FORREC. The other part of it is, again, bringing back the name of Steve Moorhead, this iconic figure in the industry. He used to tell these really incredible stories. And especially for us who were juniors in the company at the day, he would talk about his ventures and how he went out from Canada, kind of this lone place, to all four corners of the world. And he made friends, and he pitched these ideas and entertainment strategies in every park around the world because people were looking for entertainment options. And through these stories, he really inspired a lot of people, and especially me, that I wanted to do that too. I wanted to go out and explore. I wanted to go out and present design ideas and share the things that we were doing at FORREC. And that's how, kind of the beginning of meeting people around the world. And it's a big part of what we do. And it's a big part of our business and how we've forged relationships. And it just keeps blossoming as new and better and more talented people come and join our company every year. Yeah.
So would you be able to share some of the projects and any work that FORREC has worked on?
What I'd like to do is we've kind of brought ourselves to the front door of FORREC, but we've both Linda and I, have been at FORREC for quarter of a century. So I want to talk about some of the influential projects for us that really helped with our a career at FORREC, and for me, one of the things that I think I've learned so much very early in my career is Legoland Deutschland, or Legoland Germany. So I had the opportunity to be a very junior creative director. I worked with one of the senior creative directors, Terry Brown, and I got my feet wet in terms of theme parks. And it was a dream come true for me, not only a theme park, but I'm also a huge Lego nut. So the two together was pretty inspirational in terms of my development. I got to meet the client, start traveling, which I hadn't done before. So it was it really kind of propelled me, because I went from doing a lot of just sketching and doing less theme park inclined work, and I was called going into the deep end really fast. And so it was a real push, and there was a lot of stressful days and long nights. But what happened in the end, especially, is that it really grew my expertise in the industry, and working closely with the client, how they operated things, and that was kind of really important to kind of understand all the nuances, which I was completely new to. It was all on a whole new world. So the biggest piece for me is I had the opportunity to go on site, and there is nothing that is more valuable is understanding how your drawings get to be built, and working with the amazing craftsmen who are carving the rock work on the castle that you designed exactly in configuration with the Lego brick, with the fiberglass who are creating all those pieces. All of those elements really kind of propelled my knowledge of how things get built. My first day on site, originally I wasn't supposed to be on site, but in the end, they decided that it would make sense for me to go and review and coordinate with the local architects, as well as the fabricators and the general contractor. My first day, I'm like jet lagged coming from Toronto, and I'm walking through the site, and I looked down at one of the foundations of a building and realized they didn't actually pour the foundation for a whole thematic wall that was sitting in front of it. It's my first day, and I'm 28, 9, and I caught it. So it was something that was because I knew the project so well and I understood it, from all aspects of it, I was able to contribute even to something that I didn't really know about. So that is a key for me for new people coming in the industry, is really getting that site experience, but also knowing that project inside and out, so that when you get on site, you can see right away if anything is kind of a miss. And so that was a real helpful in terms of my career trajectory, I think. Yeah.
I love to hear when people's personal and professional passions overlap. And I know Kathy is also a huge Lego nut.
Yes. Guilty.
I have to say, I was very jealous that James and the others were on site. I was behind the scenes. I was working on the project, and I thought, I want to be there, the next one.
So Linda, would you like to tell us about your favorite project, or project that you've enjoyed the most?
I have many different favorite projects, but there's one, if I had to choose, that sticks out in my mind, and that's the Macau Cotai project. And not that many people have heard of it because it didn't go all the way through. It's a project that we just took through concept and maybe into schematic design before the project was stopped. So it's really sad about that. But I'll tell you what was so special about it. It was about 10 years ago, so 2012, and we started working on this project. It was a competition. The client was SJM. They're a big casino operator, developer in Macau. The piece of land, Cotai, is right between the Koloan and Taipa Islands. It's this infill site, so really prestigious on very, very precious land amongst all the other casino operators and licensees. And in the brief, it said that they needed a theme park. And I said, okay, I know theme parks. I've been master planning them now for 10 years or so. I can do this. So I get out there for this pitch with the client, and I realized that they didn't want a theme park at all. They're casino operators. They were really looking for something that would be something different. They were looking for a new model of entertainment. So on the fly, we were brainstorming, and we presented this idea of a park that would be divided into individual attractions. So 10 years ago, that wasn't as common. And what we said is that we are going to pitch the idea of these individual gated attractions that would be 2 hours length of stay each attraction. So you'd go inside and you take your guests, you would be able to experience everything, but you'd pretty much finish the whole experience in 2 hours. Then you could do the second, then you could do the third. So in my mind, I thought, hey, that's a whole day. You could spend a whole day there, just like in a theme park. Well, the client, when we pitched this, they thought it was the best and most brilliant idea, because what was important to them is that they didn't want the people away from the gaming tables for any longer than 2 hours. That was their cutoff time. So they thought that this was incredible as a different kind of a model. On top of that, we designed it in the central space where we had about 3,000 plus hotel rooms that all look down into the top of so those are the 3 attractions you could see there. They're separated into different gates coming off of the central hub. All the hotel rooms on this plot and the north plot all looking down. So what do you do about it when you have that many high-rise buildings? We created this beautiful green roof. The green roof was undulating about 20,000 square meters, just this lush garden that the hotel guests could use portions of it. It undulated up and down because we made room for all the tall rides underneath. So you can see that in the sections, we basically pushed and pulled this volume of space to work with our entertainment programming. So this was also really innovative at the time. We're building a park, but we're going to conceal it. So So it's out there for you, but it's hidden. And then when we delved inside the attractions, that was the fun part, doing what we do best in designing these amazing spaces. And we told the culture of Macau, which is a combination of Portuguese and Cantonese heritage. So all these amazing things about the project that stick out in my mind. But I have to say, though, if I had to summarize, what was really special about it is that each time we went, we presented to this board of billionaires. We used to call them the 3 billionaires. They were on the SJM board, and I was so nervous about this. I would go into the meetings, and they'd come in late. They would just usually by helicopter. They came to the tower, they landed on the roof, they'd come rushing in. Then the next board member would come in, and he brought Starbucks coffees for his other 2 board members. And the one fellow, he was wearing green Converse sneakers. And then I turned my head and I looked at Terry Brown, who was with me at that meeting, and Tim Scott in another meeting. And I said, they're just like us. Like, we're just all normal people, and they're just like us. And I think that from that moment on, it broke that barrier for me. Like, I could do this. Like, I was good at what I was doing. We were all good at it. FORREC. We can pitch our ideas, we can design, we can workshop with them. And this project was in common. Like, they would roll up their sleeves and work right with us. That moment on, I really felt like this, it really sealed the deal that this was my forte, this was my niche, and I was meant to do this type of entertainment design work. That's kind of my project, and that's why Cotai was so special for me.
You really took us on a journey there. That was a really amazing story.
That was quite the story. So would you like to jump over to job opportunities? Like, this is amazing to become a part of. If there's any opportunity for people who want to come and join FORREC or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm going to keep maybe this one quite short and sweet, because we are always on the lookout for talent. I mean, that's how we continue to grow. So I would just say, maybe if you're interested in anything, please go look at the FORREC website. We always have our postings up there. Please check it regularly. We're also on LinkedIn, and we would love to hear from you. And our HR, she is Leah. She'll look out for any messages that come through TV.
Sounds amazing. So would you guys like to discuss job responsibilities?
Yeah. Well, as Linda, we've mentioned, we've been at the company for a while, so our responsibilities have changed as we've grown with the company. So I've had the advantage of having, as I said before, a lot of different hats, but the hats were even multiple when I started. So as I mentioned, I'm trained as an architect, but when I got to FORREC, I was designing mountains in landscape. I was developing signage for attractions. I did a lot of interiors work, including specifying materials and carpets, and the list went on and on. And so, one of the key things that I did have multiple job roles on was the villages in Florida. And so you don't normally think about theme park designers and retirement communities being one and the same, but this was the first project that I had a lot of small roles on, because there was multiple projects that are going on. So the Villages is north of Orlando, and they built a downtown to basically help the community grow, that there became a focus to all the literally thousands and thousands of retirement units that surround the property. So creating a destination that had some almost a history to it, we were able to kind of develop what we call a a narrative for all of the facility. The idea that Ponce de Leon had come to create, found, looking for the Fountain of Youth, and he thought he found it here. You know, kind of a nice narrative for a retirement community, of course. But what was good for me is that there are so many little things. So there's a patio to be designed, or a theater lobby. So I put on a lot of different hats. So that became a good precursor to Legoland Germany, because then I was able to have all this different experience with different disciplines. And so while I didn't know a lot about one thing, I was able to touch on multiple things. And so my career kind of from Lego then went from different projects. One of the key ones for me was Dollywood Mystery Mine, working closely with Hershon Family Entertainment. They were looking for a major expansion to the park, which FORREC helped develop the overall master plan, kind of a 10-year master plan of what could be incorporated long-term for the park. And this was one of their key investments, and it was a themed roller coaster that we worked with Gerstlauer, and we had to figure it out from how it sat into the valley, worked with, you know, what are the key show scenes that we could fit in this really narrow site, and, you know, trying to really evoke what the mining storyline would be. And then the production team on the end really then focused on pulling it all together, from the renderings that we created, all of the beautiful materials that we picked, and the aging. And in the end, it was a very comprehensive attraction that really I then got to understand all of the elements in terms of show set integration, media integration, SFX integration, which was really new for me because I didn't deal much of it with Legoland. You know, it was not as much as a focus in terms of Mystery Mine. So then from there, we have a long-term relationship with Nickelodeon, going back, I think, 25 years to an Australian theme park proposal. But we've had the opportunity to do the rebrand for Nickelodeon Universe back in, well, I won't say, it'll date me, 2005 or 6, I think. So again, this was a major renovation. We've had a long history with 555, of course, going back to West Edmonton Mall, and then they were looking for a rebranding of the park that is central to Mall of America. So working again closely with the Nickelodeon recreation team, kind of to develop the overall concept of how all the pieces would glue it together. And it was complicated because the park had to stay open. So we worked with the owner to kind of figure out then, you know, what they can focus on and which areas, and how we can, you know, develop all that. So I think that, again, was a key project for me to kind of understand the implications in terms of the you know, putting in all of these new elements within an existing space. One of the most terrifying moments of my career was on that project, where we integrated a surf rider into the project, and we tested out in 3D in so many different ways to make sure that the surf rider had fit within the existing structure, as well as there's coasters going around and all the existing infrastructure. And I went on site and I looked at the pit where the whole surf rider was going in, and I looked up at the top, and I just had this panic moment. It was all perfect. Everything worked to a T, but there's sometimes where you're just, you kind of question yourself, you know, did we check enough? And but it was all perfect. And what's amazing about that ride when you go in it and you go up is you're actually in the structure of the roof, and it really gives another layer of fun to it. So and then we worked again for Nickelodeon on other projects. The American Dream just opened, so we had the opportunity to really work with that, and a lot of the show development, as well as the graphics and so forth. So that was also a fun job, and it was also good to see it open. And luckily, we got to see it right before the pandemic. And then another piece, and this will be the last one that I go through, as mentioned, we have a lot of Chinese clients. At the time, Wanda was fairly prominent in terms of building a great deal of parks throughout China, and we've worked on multiple. But I was able to take the experience that we did for Mystery Mine and work on the 6 different attractions. But the one that we have here is the Fly Theater, which was I started in the schematic phase on it, and was really dear to my heart because we were trying as much as we could to reflect the narratives and storylines of the Hubei province where the project was located. And really, we used our staff at the company to test some things out, to make sure that, for us, that we're not saying anything that, that culturally is inappropriate. And that was important to us. And we worked with a lot of consultants to make sure that the architecture made sense, the details made sense. And then we had the opportunity to work with some really fantastic media vendors, which was also eye-opening for me in terms of the pacing of the movie, the creation of the storyboards and the narratives. And we worked with some of the best people in the industry, from special effects through technical integration, through lighting and show sets. So it was also a really big moment for me. So from all that, as I mentioned, I also ran the creative studio for a number of years, but now I am in business development. So I'm focused on, as I mentioned earlier, is kind of our visitor attractions, but also I'm focused on the North American market and connecting up with clients and making sure that our clients are well served, and both for drumming up new business, but making sure that the existing clients are well taken care of. So.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. Like, just the full breadth of what you've had the opportunity to work on. I mean, like, starting off like in the field, you were saying, like, you're able to go through and see what was happening and actually point out that something wasn't quite right. But then, going on to doing stuff for Dollywood and, a lot of things for Nickelodeon, which is really exciting. So, Linda, I know that you've worked on a lot of master planning, which I absolutely love because I come from attraction design, and a lot of times we come in as part of inputs for the master planning, and it's a true art and amazingness. So would you be able to share a little bit about your job responsibilities?
Yeah, master planning is a big part of my early job responsibility. It's actually what got me the job at FORREC. You usually, come in with some sort of a niche, and that was always my comfort zone. That's kind of the first bucket of responsibility I had at FORREC for over 10 years. I think that I can't even count how many master plans I had been through. And sometimes I have to stop and I think of how amazing our core team of master planners is at FORREC, because we jump from project to project so quickly. Sometimes you have a week to plan something, sometimes 2 weeks. If you're lucky, you may have 3. So in the end of it, it's quite a bit of a blur. You're also asked to jump scale. Like, sometimes you'll be working on something at 1 to 100, your master planning inside a facility, all the way out to 1 to 10,000 city scale. So we have, like the master planners in general, have that unique ability to be able to multitask and to move and change viewpoints and perspectives fluidly. So I love it for that reason. It's always changing. But I have to admit, though, when I look back at my early 10 years of master planning, everything is a little bit of a blur, because unlike James's way he's described his career development, I didn't really get a full breadth of what a project was about if you're always at 10,000 feet above. So it wasn't until my project on Resorts World on Sentosa Island that I got that opportunity to be a master planner and be a project manager at the same time. Resorts World, for those of you have seen or have been there, is just this amazing place on the northern side of Sentosa Island. There is a casino there. It's an integrated casino resort. The site is pretty tight. It's 4950 hectares. It's big, but it's not big considering how much is built on this piece of land. Multi-levels of underground parking and facilities there. There are a number of hotels, the casino, convention, and on the right side of the plan, you can see a whole Universal Studios theme park, all fit within the 50 hectares, 49 hectares. Some amazing images, and these were all part of a competition that we did in 2006. We worked with Genting and that amazing group, his talented consortium, to win that bid. And on that project, it was there's a lot of learning lessons, but overall, it was just a really innovative design to be able to stack everything and fit it within that site. Think it's a little bit part of my nature. Maybe that's why I love puzzles, but there's a real skill involved in being able to fit all you need to do to produce for the client, to make it work operationally, circulation and all of your transit coming into that site, and make it look beautiful. So that's a big project for me. From there, I grew into business development. So that was kind of the next big path. And like James, I don't know if James felt this way, but for me, it was really awkward. I have to say, for the first couple of years, I would be out there, I have to sell, but I'm not really a salesman, by nature. I'm a designer. I'm a master planner. I'm a landscape architect. But actually, like I said, that at FORREC, many people are multidisciplinary, and that's what really helped me with business development. Because if I can put aside the fact that I was there really trying to sell, but really I'm trying to help them with their project. So to be able to workshop, to be able to design, to be able to figure out their master plans right there with them during the meeting is really what made business development a very natural entry for me. And I've been able to kind of juggle and do both for, I guess, maybe the last 10 years. It's been a lot of fun. Maybe if I share, so when you end up in business development, people ask, so do you part from project work? Do you miss that? Well, never say never, because then I worked it out with our office that I would be the project manager on Universal Studios Beijing, which I never regretted. At the time, I thought, I've been doing BD for so long. I don't know if I can go back and just go through the grind of project work. But it was amazing. Universal Studios Beijing. I wish I could show visuals and I wish I could talk about it, but we're not allowed. And but I will just say that from my own personal experience, it was the best. We had an amazing client project team who supported us along the way. We have an amazing team still going on now with the restart. That's our architects, our engineers, our whole A&E team is the best. We've built some really strong relationships. And then I was able to build a really strong relationship with our, what we call the LDI, lovingly the LDI, the Local Design Institute in China. So our team in Beijing felt like an extension of our FORREC office. And that's just the way we roll, right? We make friends and then they become seamless with them. To this date, I still text with them on WeChat. How's it going? I can't be at the site, I can't travel. What's it looking like? And they're like this family to us. And that's what happens. You get an amazing project like that, and there's tremendous responsibilities and a demand that is kind of hard to describe. That kind of pressure that our team went through day and night, because they're 12 hours difference. Like there was days that we just didn't sleep much. Our whole team knows that. But it was really successful because we have this team there in Beijing who can successfully execute after we hand off our design. So there's a whole process in there that I wish I can't really describe in a couple of minutes, but the whole Universal Beijing was amazing.
It's been fantastic. It was such an amazing team. So working on that, and as you've said, Linda, it was cross from the Universal project team, all of our sub-consultants, our internal teams, and then had so amazing relationship with the local architects. So we can't wait to go when it opens.
Yeah. So I have to say
Yeah.
though, James was part of leading that creative studio at the beginning to develop a model for the insides of one of the spaces. I can't talk about what, but that helped us from day one to be able to visualize, because we knew this was going to get built and we were going to do it right.
Right.
And,
And did we want to talk about some of the other projects? There's Niagara Parks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what we wanted to do is, like, this is kind of our history. So we thought, well, how about some stuff that we're doing right now or about to open? So we were approached a couple of years ago from the Niagara Parks Commission to revitalize one of the existing power stations in Niagara. So this is the Canadian side. So this is not the US Canadian side, but there's a series of power stations that are unused. They were decommissioned when the power voltage changed. And so it was too expensive for them to retrofit those power stations. So they've been sitting dormant for quite some time, some longer than others. But the one that they had asked us, they reached out to look at what could it become. And they had their own ideas and brought it to the table. And this is the key thing for us, is really working closely with our clients and understanding, their desires and hopes and really, what they want to achieve with the project. And so for us, this was a big master planning piece that, we are pushing, the kind of envelope on some of those pieces. So for us, I think this is a key one. It's going to be opening up actually the end of the month. It has a phased opening, but the idea that we are incorporating some major elements for the exhibition for people to understand the building. The building, goes down. It's kind of like an iceberg. There's so much actually underneath the building because of all the pipes and everything underneath. And so the idea then for us is also creating the experience journey across with for the guests, and so that's a real key project for us. Right. Linda, did you want to do Sky City?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's the other current project that we're all really excited about. Some people may have seen some of the news. K11 has announced this amazing project in Hong Kong. It's right next to the airport. This pretty mega development that is a retail dining and entertainment development. That's really what it is. And within it, entertainment is in a big way. There are a number of entertainment attractions of which FORREC worked on conceptually and then has taken one of them to design development stage, which we're still in right now. So the project is actually a go-karting track. You might say, okay, there's go-karting tracks everywhere, but this one is going to be different. This one is very unique. We've put together an amazing team to work on it with us. We have a great lighting consultant, technology consultant, and we have an AV specialist, and we have a professional go-kart driver who is the one who's helped spearhead the design of this 1 kilometer long track that weaves in and out multi-levels of this building. It is engaged and right up against the guest experience outside of it, meaning that it's not like a typical go-karting track where you just drive and you're really separated from the rest of the attraction. We've taken every opportunity to really integrate it so that the guests can cheer the drivers on. There's interactives where you could vote for your favorite team without getting into too much detail or spilling it because it's still under design right now. This is really intended to be the next generation of a driving experience where we allow everybody to participate at the same time, all things related to the love of driving. So that will be coming. Look out for this project. We're very excited about it.
I really want to visit.
I'm not a crazy a car type person, but the only time I ever cared about the way a car looked was when our designers were designing these go-karts. I don't care about color or fancy things and decals, but we were right into it with our studios. Yeah. So.
And I know you
exciting.
touched upon this briefly, but how in order to bring these projects to life, you end up needing to have like a pretty well-versed team, an interdisciplinary team. Can you talk a little bit more about your project teams?
Yeah. Well, that would be James. James he was a pretty figure head on this job, but we also had a big group of creative under James. James, I'm going to let you talk about that.
Well, it's, again, all of our studios kind of work really closely together. And so, we come up with a concept, we do a lot of brainstorming at the beginning to kind of spitballing different ideas, different scenarios, different narratives, and we see what sticks. And usually, we'll approach a client and we'll have kind of multiple ideas, and, we kind of have our favorite, not necessarily they choose their favorite. Sometimes they'll take all of them and want to combine them into one, which happens. But for us, it's really, at the beginning, it's kind of everyone's involved and participating. So our creative staff is, again, looking at the modeling and kind of the imagery and the narrative with the creative director, also kind of then translating, how we present it to the client, which is really key for us. Are we going to be doing standard PowerPoint? Are we going to be animating it? Are we going to do a VR walkthrough? Like, what's the best way to convey the message to the client so they buy in and they understand what we're producing? So that's, and then all the other studios. So our architecture in this project, the facility was really complex. So we had fire zones and all these different aspects that we needed to coordinate to make sure that the attraction actually worked. And that was a lot of effort working with the base building team in Hong Kong. And then our interiors team, they just get it and they understand it, and they're developing the SketchUp models, developing the spaces. What are the material pieces that really then connect with? And then everyone's kind of understanding what are the interactive elements that then really kind of up-notch the whole experience. So those are kind of the key pieces. And then we work so closely with signage and graphics to kind of then, bring the look together. And they understood of kind of the different approaches that we had and how to then, really then to reflect the nuances in the design and the signage and graphics. So with all that together, and then there's an outdoor track with a little bit of landscape, which we're hoping to kind of also pursue on that. Then every studio is really kind of working in concert with each other.
It's really, really wonderful to hear about how both of you have grown into these roles at the company and how you've developed from where you started to where you are now, but you still get to work on such diverse projects. And for Linda to be able to go back and do project management whilst you're still wearing different hats, it's so nice to see that your company values taking on such a diverse team. And I'd love to hear if you've picked up any key learnings or things you'd wish you'd known sooner through your professional development and your time at FORREC.
So it's like I have this laundry list of things I've learned. I could email them to you at some point, but I'm going to start with maybe one that I feel is very true to both James and I and probably many others. Maybe because we're in Toronto and we're a little bit isolated. It's not as if people come directly into the entertainment industry. We just fell across it. I would encourage people, if you have any interest in it, you think this is fun or this is cool, see if there's an opportunity to marry what you do, what you naturally do, your skills, and then it will evolve into something in the entertainment world because it's so broad, it's so vast what we do. We leverage so many different talents, it's unbelievable. Like myself, being a landscape architect, master planner, but then an entertainment master planner. That was a very unusual, but yet very natural evolution. We have a guy named Paul who was very dear in our creative studio, and he was a courtroom artist, and he would draw every day, and then he found FORREC, and he then drew for us an illustrator and drew everything design and entertainment related, and characters and mascots and all those things, and he was just this perfect fit. And who would have thought that connection? So I would just say, really just do what you can, find out more about it, and find a way in, and you will grow naturally. You'll be able to hone your skills into what we do. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's wonderful advice. I really, really appreciate hearing that. I'd love to hear it from you as well, James.
Well, I guess for me, I'm a people pleaser. I love people. I love pleasing people. So I have a tendency to say yes to everything, right? And a lot. And you know, one can only do so much. So I've learned how to say yes, but also sometimes maybe not to also say no to clients. So it's a bit of a balance. For some clients, you know, sometimes we have way that we've done things with other clients, and so we sometimes kind of give our recommendations, and we think, well, you know, this is the way that we should be doing things. So that may not be the way that they do things. So it's always been a balance of how, you know, what to agree to in terms of both, you know, your workload, but also in terms of your recommendations to your client on what your professional advice is versus, you know, maybe what how they deal with things and operate things. So it's sort of how to say yes and how to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to bring it back to what Linda said about seeing her clients as being humans too, we can all only do so much.
No.
And that is great advice, and I think it's really good to hear that.
Really fantastic advice. Let's do a few more questions here, because I know that we're at our hour mark at this particular point, and we greatly appreciate your time. So leading on from our last question, what would you say was the hardest lessons you have learned so far within your career?
Okay, I'll go, because I have, again, lots of lessons, and I always relate them back to my projects. That's why FORREC is so special. I learned so much, you know. I'm going to go back to the Resorts World project that I talked about. So that was my first time project manager and designer. So this was a big lesson for me. I think we made our second interim presentation. It was really beautiful, this stunning package. Of course, you know, we went on to win that competition, so it was very good. I got a lot of compliments. We had an executive director who led me, and felt really good. Afterwards, he went back and he did some cross-checking. He found some errors the way I calculated the land use, which I was responsible for, because this was a land planning exercise. And I felt horrible. Like it's led on to some very negative feedback. And I could have walked away and I could have been angry. But really, it was at that moment that it dawned on me that it was my responsibility. You know, I was a PM now. If I didn't pick that up, who was going to pick it up? This is really my role. I have to own it. I'm responsible for it. And the good thing about it is that ever since then, I am actually crazy and meticulous with double checking things, especially with numbers. It's in my nature. It's in my DNA now because of that project and what happened. I never forgot it, and turned it into a positive. So I'm happy for that. I'm happy for that mistake, I guess.
Yeah, I think on my end, I had a major project with a fairly significant operator, and there was a huge theater that I was involved with. And what it comes down to, you always remember the budget. The budget is there for a reason, and you have to make sure that your program area and your budget are accounted for. So Again, I like to say yes. So I had an operations team that was looking for a lobby that could hold everyone in the theater. It needed to be air conditioned, so they wanted a whole turn of guests that are able to enjoy the space before they went into the theater. We had an entertainment program that wanted green spaces and performance spaces for practicing that added a whole floor onto the back of house. We had then the creative saying this is a major attraction, so it needs to be a certain size on the facade and so forth. So if you add all those up, then what happened is a 100% increase in the budget, right? And as me as a facility design, I was the facility manager at that time. It was a bit of an embarrassment, right? Because we were not even in the ballpark because we accommodated all of the inputs that was requested. So we had to go back and then creatively look at ways that we could have outside guest comfort, but not inside to handle the operations. We had to look at other spaces within the land that could be performance spaces that would not, contribute to the overall of the budget. And then we had to kind of look at how we use the front facade of the building to then work with the overall land, but do it within the budget constraints. And so, once we did all that and re-proposed it to the management team, all was good. But it certainly was a pretty stressful while when you're significantly over budget with a major facility.
Yeah, I learned lessons.
Yeah,
that's a big lesson to learn. I think we have time for one more question. So I'd like to know from James first. What are some positive characteristics that can yield someone greater success?
Curiosity. For me, it's about being curious and really looking at ways of exploring your creativity, because really curiosity fuels your creative spirit. So read everything that you can, and not just about the industry. Just really make yourself well versed in a variety of things. I think we're like actors because we have the opportunity to tell different stories in different regions with different people and narratives. And so that curiosity to kind of understand all of that nuances, which really reflect the core DNA of a project, is really important. And so to me, that's the curiosity is key.
You took mine, James. I was going.
Oh, sorry.
I like that one. Go see. He's the creative director.
Yeah.
If I had to choose one, then I think maybe James talked a little bit about this earlier, and that was the relationships, how important that is. So I would advise that young designers, you go out and you try to showcase your talent. I think it's very important that you are vocal about it, because we're a very collaborative industry. So I'm not saying necessarily that go stalk down your president, and make him listen. I mean, if you can do that, that's great. If you have that type of president, which we do at FORREC, but for most cases, people don't, like myself, you're shy. I was shy for many, many years, and I couldn't speak to people who were my superiors. But it's okay, then just speak to the people around you. If you can collaborate and express your talent and your skills amongst your own peers, everybody grows up in this industry. Like 20-something years later, people become your boss. People will choose you to be on their teams. People will pick you for your skills to be on their project, and they become your clients. And this building of the relationships and the friendships along the way is a long-term commitment, and that's what will make you more successful. I think, yeah. James and I have been lucky that way, I think.
Well, it certainly seems to have worked for the both of you, and it's wonderful to hear some of your amazing insight, and we are so grateful to have had you on the show today.
Thank you so much. This was an amazing session. It really was.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. It was very fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Made this very easy for us. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much.